They said Rome feared no man, not kings, not empires, not gods. Its legions crushed nations, burned cities, and turned oceans into highways of conquest. But once, Rome went to war with a shepherd, not a nation, not an army, a shepherd. And what followed was not glory, but shame. A humiliation so complete that even Roman historians whispered about it with embarrassment. Because this wasn't just defeat. This was the day the greatest empire on earth was beaten by a man who owned nothing but a cloak, a mountain, and his will. This is the story of Rome versus the Shepherd King and the most humiliating war the empire ever fought. The story begins in the rocky hills of North Africa, in a place Rome believed it had already conquered. By the early 2nd century BC, Rome had crushed Carthage, seized its riches, and claimed North Africa as its prize. But just west of that dead empire lay Numidia, a rugged land of dust and stone ruled not by emperors, but by tribes. For years, the Numidians had been Rome's allies. They provided horses for its cavalry, grain for its soldiers. Their loyalty was useful until one man changed everything. His name was Jugurtha. Born a bastard son to a Numidian prince, raised among shepherds, he grew up watching Rome from the edge of the horizon, admiring, envying, learning. He rose through cunning, charm, and blood, and when civil war tore Numidia apart, Jugurtha played every side, bribed every Roman, and crowned himself king over a land Rome thought it already owned. But Jugurtha wasn't just a survivor. He was something Rome didn't understand, a man who refused to kneel. At first, Rome didn't take him seriously. They saw Jugurtha as another petty ruler, another name in a distant desert. He killed rivals, seized cities, murdered his cousins, all under Rome's gaze. And when Rome sent commissioners to restore order, Jugurtha bribed them. Gold flowed through the Senate like water. Nobles took gifts, generals took coin, and the Republic looked the other way. Jugurtha returned to Numidia smiling, because he had learned the one truth that would define his war. In Rome, everything is for sale. But Rome couldn't ignore him any longer. When Jugurtha slaughtered pro-Roman nobles in the city of Cirta, killing Italian merchants under Rome's protection, the Senate had no choice. The Republic declared war. They sent armies, confident the campaign would be short. After all, how could a shepherd king resist the legions of Rome? But Jugurtha didn't fight Rome's war. He vanished into the hills. He struck at night, poisoned wells, ambushed supply trains, bribed scouts, and disappeared again. He knew the desert better than any map. He used the land as his ally and Rome as his food. For 6 long years, Rome bled money, soldiers, and pride. Generals rotated in and out of Africa like actors on a stage, each one convinced he could succeed where others failed. Each one left in disgrace. Jugurtha bought them, tricked them, outmaneuvered them. He'd appeared to surrender one month, only to raise another army the next. Roman soldiers roasted under the African sun while their leaders feasted in marble tents. The legions began to doubt themselves, and in Rome itself, the people began to laugh. The invincible republic, humiliated by a shepherd. Then something broke. One of Rome's few honest men, Gaius Memmius, stood before the Senate and shouted the words that no one dared speak. Our empire is being sold. He accused senators and generals alike of treason, of taking Jugurtha's gold while their soldiers died. The scandal exploded. Riots filled the streets. Rome demanded revenge, not for justice, but for pride. The Senate sent Quintus Metellus, a man too proud to be bribed, too cold to be fooled. And behind him marched a young officer, a hungry, brilliant commoner named Gaius Marius.
Metellus brought discipline back to the legions. He reorganized the troops, punished cowardice, and refused to play Jugurtha's games. Slowly, methodically, he drove the Numidian king into the desert. Towns fell, allies fled. Jugurtha's luck began to turn. But he still would not submit. He used every trick, burning fields behind him, disappearing into the mountains, striking at night, vanishing by dawn. Even cornered, he refused to be caught. Rome could defeat armies. It couldn't defeat shadows. Back in Rome, Marius, the ambitious officer, watched and waited. He saw how slow the Senate's war had become. He knew the people wanted blood, not patience. He returned to Rome and declared, "The war drags on because the nobility wants it that way." Then he promised victory, if only the people would elect him consul. They did, and Marius returned to Africa not as a soldier, but as commander of Rome's wrath. When Marius arrived, Jugurtha's world was collapsing. His armies were starving, his allies gone. Even his family turned against him. But the shepherd king refused surrender. He told his followers, "Better to die free than live under Rome." Marius hunted him across the desert. Cities burned, fortresses fell, rivers ran red. Yet Jugurtha escaped every time. It was as if the desert itself shielded him. And then came betrayal. Jugurtha's own father-in-law, Bocchus, king of Mauritania, offered Marius an alliance. But Bocchus was cunning. He promised Jugurtha safety too. He invited both men to meet. Jugurtha came, unarmed, trusting blood ties. Bocchus betrayed him. Roman soldiers bound the shepherd king in chains, his wrists tied with the same rope he once used to herd cattle. He was dragged from his mountains, across the sea, and through the streets of Rome. When Marius returned to Rome, he was celebrated as a god. Trumpets blared, the streets filled with flowers and cheers. And behind his chariot walked Jugurtha, barefoot, shackled, his face hollow from years of war. The crowd spat, mocked, jeered. But Marius knew the truth. He could kill the man, but not erase the humiliation. For years, Rome had chased a shepherd through the sand and merely lost its soul doing it. Rome claimed victory, but the war had exposed everything it wanted to hide. Its greed, its corruption, its arrogance. Jugurtha had shown the world that Rome's power was for sale, that its Senate could be bought, that its gods could be mocked. He didn't destroy the empire, he infected it. The sickness he revealed would rot Rome from within. Within a century, civil war would tear the republic apart, and the empire that once bragged of honor would drown in its own corruption. Jugurtha's name faded from Rome's monuments, but his lesson never did. Empires fall not from enemies, but from the rot of their own pride. Today, the ruins of Numidia lie silent, stones buried beneath sand, sun, and time. But if you stand in that wind long enough, you can almost hear it. The echo of sandals, the rattle of armor, the laughter of a shepherd who once made the world's mightiest empire lose its dignity. Rome conquered continents, but could not conquer conscience. Its greatest enemy was never a kingdom. It was a man who refused to bow. And for all its legions and laurels, Rome's most humiliating war was not fought for land, but for its own soul.